Pokémon, a franchise beloved to some and hated by others. Whether it's nostalgia, the designs of the fabled pocket monsters, lawsuits against competitors, bad performance, or stagnant game design, odds are you have an opinion on the franchise and its newest game, Pokémon Legends ZA. If you haven't heard of it, Pokémon Legends ZA is the newest Pokémon game in the Legends series, a different take on the Pokémon formula that uses an active battle system rather than a turn-based one. It takes place in Lemoyne City within the Kalos region, the 6th generation of Pokémon, also known as X and Y. Instead of the usual collect 8 gym badges to face the Elite Four and become the new champion, you compete in a nightly royale against your fellow trainers to be recognized as the best trainer in Lemoyne. Meanwhile, something is causing Pokémon to undergo Mega Evolution throughout the city, and it's your job to stop it. Being on vacation and right off the train, you meet local do-gooder Urbane, or Tawny, who wants you to be in a commercial that could be called false advertising. Before it can be shot though, your bag gets stolen and you are gifted a Pokémon within minutes. You're then quickly pressured into joining the ZA Royale and joining Team MZ, from which point the game takes off. That brief description makes the game sound subpar, and to be fair, the game hardly puts its best foot forward, forcing you to go through a tutorial stage that overstays its welcome. But it doesn't answer the important questions. Is the new Legends ZA game good or bad? And what's it worth? What's a good price? And is this a game that should be on your radar? I borrowed it to find out, because I have no money. Before we get into this review, a few brief disclaimers. First, this is a practice review, so while my thoughts are genuine and I stand by my conclusions, I know I need to iron out a few things. If you see something I can improve, such as this microphone, please let me know with a comment. I also reviewed this game using the Switch 2 edition, and while I did try to keep spoilers out of this review, one or two may have slipped through the cracks. Sorry ahead of time if I missed one. Now, let's get into it. Starting with gameplay, I can honestly say that this game is very fun. Unlike the mainline Pokemon games, ZA does a great job of blending its traveling with its battling system. It feels like a natural evolution of what Pokemon should and could be if Game Freak and Nintendo innovated on the formula. As I mentioned earlier, Pokemon battles are live action. You control your trainer and partner will just naturally travel to your side, so long as they haven't been ordered to attack. You lock on to your opponent, then issue orders with A, B, X, and Y. Your moves all have their own cooldowns, so you can't just use the same move over and over again. Using items has also been buffed and nerfed. You can use an item so long as your Pokemon hasn't been ordered to attack. But it also comes with an 8-second cooldown during battles, so you can't just keep healing your Pokemon continuously. Thankfully, there is a bar at the bottom of the screen that shows you if your items are still on cooldown. While facing wild Pokemon, there's the added danger of being knocked out by their attacks. This system isn't perfect, but I enjoy it. Wild Pokemon target you instantly if you don't have your own Pokemon out before they see you. Worse yet, if they see you first and you send out one of your Pokemon, they'll still target you for a time. Your Pokemon also stand a bit close to you, making it so that way even if they're the target of the attacks, you can still be hit. It forces you to pay attention and be ready to drop your lock-on and dodge out of the way, but it also means that if there's many Pokemon to fight, it's harder for you to focus on the biggest threat. Like I said, it isn't perfect. Catching Pokemon is also improved in the mainline games. If you knock out a Pokemon by accident, you get one more chance to catch them with a final Pokeball. It's not a guaranteed catch, but it is equivalent to the Pokemon being at 1 HP. Also, if you throw too many Pokeballs at a single Pokemon, they'll get enraged and become uncatchable for a time. Sadly, navigating which Pokeball to throw is a bit of a pain. Also, Pokeballs, Great Balls, and Ultra Balls all feel about the same, like there's no difference. That feeling stems from the fact that there's these arrows besides the lock-on, which show you the likelihood of catching. They mostly respond to damage, status effects, and specialty balls, such as the Dive Ball or Net Ball, especially in late game. Shiny hunting is also something that's improved in this game compared to the mainline ones. When one is nearby, a sound will play to alert you to their presence. But only once. It's up to you to hunt them down. Good thing is, in wild zones, the area you need to search is very small, making it reasonably possible to find them. Also, if you get into a battle with another Pokemon, the shiny doesn't despawn. You aren't locked into place or forced to try and escape with the ability Run. You just keep running until you find them. It's a major quality of life improvement. I personally encountered 2 shiny Pokemon in my time playing without a shiny charm or even trying to find them. And that's not counting the 1 guaranteed spawn. There are even alpha Pokemon in this game, a carryover from the previous game, Legends Arceus. I have mixed feelings on them. On one hand, they're a nice challenge and a unique element to Legends. On the other hand, alphas are legends from an ancient age. Why am I encountering them in Lumoy City? They have guaranteed static spawn locations. They're introduced as a myth, but no one's surprised by them. Alphas just don't make sense in this game. They'd work better with the shiny rules applied to them, with a very low chance of being encountered, but that's not how they're used. Trainer battles are a bit slower than wild Pokemon battles, partially because they have stronger Pokemon and the battle's harder, but also because when their Pokemon faints, the game brings focus to their next Pokemon being thrown out. You lose control while that animation is happening. Thankfully, these battles don't have trainer damage. You can be hit by every attack and not black out. Trainers also occasionally do unexpected things from time to time, such as switching out their starting Pokemon to counter yours, or Mega Evolving their final Pokemon. It's by no means a regular occurrence, and I wish I saw more of that thinking in the trainers, especially since when I first saw them switch a Pokemon in response to mine, I was like, wait, what? They don't do that. I was genuinely surprised and was hoping things were going to get a lot more interesting. They didn't. But it can happen, which is an improvement. Just wish it happened more. For the Royale fights, you need to be in a battle zone. In these zones, all battles are a surprise battle, whose surprised is down to your skill and chance. When you get the jump on the other trainers, you deal a bit of extra damage, but when they get the jump on you, there's a good chance that you and your partner will be stunned. This isn't a guarantee though, especially when the trainer is a lower rank than you. These battles are very rapid fire. You'll want to get into fight after fight after fight in very quick succession. The more wins you get each night, the higher your nightly winnings will be, and pushing for 30 wins is a very thrilling challenge. You're not always going to do it, but it's great when you do it. Honestly, the worst part about battle zones is the fact that trainers don't always respawn fast enough. Trainers respawn based on distance, and battle zones aren't always large enough to trigger that. Honestly, the only really reliable way to reset a zone that I found was to fast travel to a Pokécenter, then fast travel back. Outside of battling, the main appeal to the game, traversing Lumoy City is surprisingly fun despite the static city environment. The verticality of the city's design is doing a lot of heavy lifting, allowing you to not only climb onto the city's rooftops, but by allowing you to roll and glide between them, really makes getting around Lumoy City never truly get dull. The inclusion of these scaffolding parkour challenges also helps here. These 3D parkour puzzles usually lean more into the parkour than they do the puzzle, but they reward you with these colorful screws, which you can use to buy plushies which buff you in various ways. So, is there anything bad with gameplay? Well, for one, there's no such thing as failure in this game. If you start a promotion match or a mega battle and then lose, you just get Dialga'd back in time. Your Pokemon are fully healed and it's like you never lost. If you start a quest battle, even one you shouldn't need to win, your character will just be sad about losing and the quest won't progress. Worse yet, when going into a story-based battle, 99% of the time your party is healed before and after the battle. There are times where this would be nice, often in the 2D sprite era of Pokemon, but this game hands out healing way too frequently. There are 2 instances when a character asks if you want them to heal your Pokemon. 2. And only during one of those instances do they listen. It'd be fine if this was used as a character trait, but everyone is doing it constantly. Even if you lose a battle in a battle zone, there's no real consequences. To progress, you need tickets, and to get those tickets, you win battles and complete challenge cards. Those tickets themselves and the cards aren't lost if you lose. Instead, what you lose is half of your medals, these coins which give you 10 Pokédollars for each one you have at the end of the night. This might punish you if you need money, but you likely never will. This also extends to fighting wild Pokemon. If you're in a wild zone and get KO'd, you're teleported to the last Pokécenter you visited. You don't lose any money or items, you just need to travel back, which is easy with fast travel. This is not to say that the game is too easy, as there's a lot of battles where it's going to be close. Heck, for the game's finale, you'll be overwhelmed through sheer numbers, even with a party that's made up of entirely level 70 plus Pokemon. The game has a good sense for difficulty after the opening section. It's just a shame that the game didn't try to dial in that difficulty at all, as it fluctuates just a bit too much. The only complaint I have not involving the lack of consequences is Mabel's research lab. While I like the Pokelab's new director and even her goal, I don't like how the research system was implemented. You're rewarded with research EXP whenever you catch Pokemon or do something. When it comes to catching Pokemon in wild zones, it makes a lot of sense and I'm okay with it. But then there's the tasks that involve battles, sitting at benches, and even going to cafes. Tasks that don't make sense to be considered research. All in all, I have very little to complain about when it comes to ZA's actual gameplay. It's a shining example of what Pokemon could be if they didn't abandon their exploration into new ideas. Ideas like Mystery Dungeon, Coliseum, XD, and even Ranger. In the future, I want to see games that are more like Legends ZA than the traditional games. As for ZA's story, it's on the weaker side. It's a very basic story, and that's a shame given that this is very much a narrative-focused game. You're never given a good reason to join the ZA tournament or even join Team MZ. You're only given a good reason to stay once you leave the tutorial stage. That's not to say it's all bad though. This game does a great job on executing its story. As middling as it is, ZA's story understands what it is and how it can be its best self despite the average plot. It understands to be a good story, it needs obstacles between you and your next objective, your next mission. They just made the mistake of waiting until the tutorial's over to do that. Once you're facing major characters, there's always going to be something that's in your way that you need to deal with. Better yet, these aren't random obstacles. They're relevant to what's going on and what will happen. For that reason, I can't in good faith pan the story, but I also can't really praise it either. I can just say that it is better than it has any right to be, but worse than it could have been had there been a proper twist or threat. A bad guy to recognize as evil, or a rival who you constantly needed to beat. Not because they were your rival, but because of what they wanted to do. If that was present, ZA's story would be top tier. ZA also has a post-game story, though it is very, very minimal. Don't expect a lot once you beat the game in terms of story. That being said, I do appreciate the fact that there were no loose ends by the time you were done with the post-game. I just kinda wish that there was something more, something that had you interact with the named characters one more time in a meaningful way. Thankfully, what this game lacks in story, it more than makes up for with its characters. Not the Pokemon, the people who live in this world. People like Team MZ or the people who you go up against in the Royale. They're not just great, they're perfect. Each one uses a base trope like all good characters do. For example, Urbane is a generic do-gooder protagonist. He's incredibly trusting, always wants to help. Lita is a dancer who always works up an appetite because she's an active person. Naveen is an introverted seamstress, a seamster. He's an aspiring fashion designer who is slow to warm up. These are what Team MZ are, but not necessarily who they are. The writers understood that these traits shouldn't be their only element. Again, using Lita and Naveen as examples, they gain depth as the game goes on. Lita shows that she's a natural leader of the group, but is also sentimental and hesitant to evolve her Staryu. Whereas, Naveen is a nerd who doubles as a straight man and wants to help his Scraggy reach its maximum potential despite the fact that he doesn't like battling. Outside of Team MZ are your big opponents. One you meet early on is Ivor, who has a very questionable goal. He and his Fist of Justice group promise to abolish all wild zones. You can probably guess his character just by looking at him. You're probably right about those guesses too. Yet he grows as a character. He recognizes his flaws and starts to try and improve upon those flaws. But most importantly, like all characters, his story is fun to go through because of the characters within it. They act like they do not because the story wills it, but because it makes sense that they act that way. Then there are people throughout the city. There are a lot of people with singular lines. These lines don't change throughout the game, a missed opportunity, but a number of these people will probably make you smile, or at least make someone else smile. Others are just completely insane, and the developers were self-aware enough to know that the situation is awkward. Throughout Lumoy City are these side missions, which really should have been called cases given who introduces you to them. Honestly, they're a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them are great, such as the ones that involve you learning a detail about Pokemon that you otherwise wouldn't know. For example, the one revolving around Sylveon being able to emit a calming aura. Others are middling and forgettable. The rewards are almost never worth it, though a few do offer new cosmetics such as new hair or eye colors. No new hairstyles, however. It's clear to me that the team who worked on these had some degree of inspiration from the Yakuza or Like a Dragon series. They weren't afraid to get wacky with some of these side missions. But at the same time, I feel like they needed to have a better vision of what side missions should be. For as many as there are that I enjoyed, there is just as many, if not more, that are forgettable or just for the checklist. What's really bad is how Game Freak chose to implement the tutorial side missions. There are a number of tutorial side missions that focus on different strategies such as buffs, status ailments, weather effects, trap moves, ranged moves, and even one about shiny Pokemon existing, so you know what to look for. Almost all of these are available once you're past the halfway point. Only the Poison Paralysis quest is available early enough to matter to players who need this side mission. I have no problem with them existing, but they really need to be earlier, possibly even localized within an area, such as a trainer school. The world is fairly well built from a narrative sense. Walking around Lemoy City, I've never encountered anything that doesn't feel like it belongs. If anything, I've got to give it brownie points for making references to old games, and being self-aware about player trading tendencies. There are a lot of nice, small touches like that hidden throughout the city for you to encounter. Nothing valuable, but it's nice. The world is also very aware of the consequences of the events of X and Y. People remember how Team Flare tried to destroy Kalos, and it is talked about whenever they come up. It really adds a level of depth to the world that other Pokemon games tend to lack because they're the first outing into a region. It makes Lemoy City feel a bit more real than it otherwise would have had they ignored the original games, and that deserves to be called out. Aesthetically, the world is admittedly very boring. Lemoy City is just a city, and there's no visual difference to any part of it besides the rooftops, where you do get an admittedly beautiful vista of the city. This could have been minimized if Game Freak had chosen to give the buildings of each district a different color set, maybe a different window design. Wild zones also suffer from this. In the entire game, there are only 2 wild zones that look any different from the other wild zones. What really saves the game in terms of visual world design is the cafes. They're spread across Lemoy City, and when you stop at one for coffee or tea, you take a moment to chill with your favorite Pokemon joining you in a picturesque scene. All, if not most of these cafes have great views for you to just stop and relax at for a moment. They make for great natural pause locations if you need to walk away. They also act as Pokécenters, so they're functional as well. I especially love the Nouveau trucks that are here and there. They have a certain flair, a certain je ne sais quoi that the other cafes simply don't have. Better yet, they're a lot cheaper. It's just a shame that the rest of the game doesn't have anything to give the environment a breath of fresh air, a certain pop, or anything. Thankfully, the game has a wonderful soundtrack that just kept delighting me. There's really only 6 songs that you're going to be hearing constantly, such as the Day Lemoy's theme, the Night Lemoy's theme, the Battle Zone theme, the Royale Battle theme, the Wild Zone theme, and the Wild Zone Battle theme. If these weren't in a video game, they'd be subpar, but in a game, in Lemoy City, they fit perfectly. Even better is that the Wild Zone and its battle theme are able to blend seamlessly into one another when a battle starts or ends. They carry their respective energies well, and Game Freak deserves props for that. While playing the game, I only encountered one real graphical bug, and it was incredibly minor. Most people probably wouldn't have noticed it. Aside from that, while playing the game, you're not going to notice how simple the city's models actually are, how low resolution its textures are. I mean, not unless you play using the photo mode, while crouched down at maximum zoom, focusing in on every single little detail you can as you get as close as possible. Then you'll notice all the flaws, how flat the world truly is. Of course, no one plays games like that, and if they do, they're not playing a game. They're trying to tear it apart. No, while actually playing the game, even taking in the vistas that you can stumble upon, you'll see nothing wrong with the game visually. Of course, it's very possible I'm saying that because I used the Switch 2 edition. I had access to more powerful graphics and better textures that the normal Switch 1 version doesn't have. So, is Pokemon Legends ZA a good or bad game? I would call it a surprisingly good game, even ignoring the fact that this is a Pokemon game. Game Freak has spent years making games that are all the same with no thought as to how they should improve, and this is the first Pokemon game that has kept me wanting to play it after I've beaten it. I like this game, enough to say that I will be buying this game, even though I've beaten its main story and its side quests. and I don't care about the DLC. ZA is fun in all the important ways, and that's the most important quality of any game. Does that mean it's worth spending $70 on the Switch 2 edition, or possibly another $30 on the unreleased DLC? No, this game is worth $60 and no more. If you find it for $50 or lower, you've got yourself a great deal. And as for the DLC, I might come back to it one day, but the game feels complete without it, so don't assume you need it. And is this a game that should be on your radar? I would say yes, it should be. That said, it's not a game that you need to go out and buy immediately. Like I said, this game is fun. Really fun. At least to me. But it also has its flaws. And it has a number of ways that it can be improved. One example I already mentioned is Mabel's Research. It's basically a challenge system that rewards you with TMs for catching a lot of Pokemon. It feels incredibly tacked on, irrelevant to the rest of the game. Given that Legends ZA is a narrative-focused game, adding a micro-story to it could have made the research more interesting. Maybe as you survey the wild zones, more are added, and you uncover hints as to why it's happening. It'll make Mabel's Research feel like it belongs, rather than it being a carryover from Legends Arceus. The trainer tips could also be improved, as they lack the crucial information that I'd call a trainer tip. For example, there is no information about status effects. You only learn about poison and paralysis from a side mission, where two people are debating which is better. Burn and Freeze have side missions as well, though they don't mention what the status effects do. I also have no idea what Drowsy is supposed to do. It never affected how I play. The trainer tips menu is also incredibly cluttered with no organization. If you want to refresh your knowledge on a specific battle detail, you need to hunt for it. For example, right in the center of the trainer tips is the vulnerability chart. It's just a pain to reference. It's not good for new players. Then there's information about moves. When you're looking at moves your Pokemon can learn, you can see if it is a physical or special attack, but you can't see if it is a melee or ranged attack. There is no quick reference for it, if there is one at all. You need to equip it and try it out. What's worse is it is important information, as if you use a ranged move after a melee move, your Pokemon needs to run back to your side to use it. They won't use it where they were standing. This is something that needs to be changed, but players can work around it. A method to dodge attacks while you're locked onto an opponent, or control how far away your Pokemon is from you in battle would also benefit the game. There are plenty of times where your Pokemon being close is detrimental to you, or where you need to stay separate from them or recall them entirely. Dodging while locked on would be a quality of life improvement, but controlling how far away a Pokemon is in relation to you could also expand on the depth of combat. Making it so the game doesn't change between day and night while in a wild Pokemon battle would also be a nice change. I've been in battles or just about to catch a Pokemon right as it switched from day to night or night to day that I've missed out on solely because I didn't have a few more seconds. It'd be one thing if it kept track of an active wild battle when it shifts between day and night, but the game doesn't. Then there's the battle camera. It doesn't freak out nearly as much as it did for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when they came out, but it still has some issues that need to be worked on, especially when a Pokemon is thrown into battle behind an object. This could be made a lot better if instead of moving the camera, they just pivoted it and zoomed in on the Pokemon. Maybe there's a reason that they don't, but it would have a lot less problems than their current system. As I have said, a lot of these flaws don't impact the rest of the game, how fun Pokémon ZA actually is. They're just areas that could make the game better. As such, I gotta give this game a B-. As far as Pokemon games go, it's a B+, maybe even an A-. But in the wider gaming market, it's a B-. The game's incredibly fun and it deserves praise. It's worth buying and it's above average, but it has flaws. It has room for improvement. But in ZA's case, that isn't a bad thing. And that does it for my review of Pokemon Legends ZA. I hope you enjoyed it, found it helpful, or at least entertaining. Especially since this was my first attempt at a YouTube video. Do you agree with me? Did I overlook something? Or did you notice something I need to do better? Please, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy if you liked or subscribed, but I won't ask you to do that. Instead, I'll ask you to have a pleasant rest of your day.